All right. Happy Thursday, everybody. My name is Kevin. I work with Configura, and I am going to serve as a room buddy for this awesome presentation today. Welcome to Reconfiguration Tool, presentation by Drea Piper. I really appreciate everybody being here this afternoon. Just a real quick reminder, we're using Zoom webinar for this breakout session today, so you won't have the ability to unmute yourself, but there's going to be a lot of ways for you to be able to interact during the presentation today. Feel free to use the chat function at the bottom of the window if you have comments to make throughout the presentation. If you do have specific questions for Drea to answer, go ahead and put those in the QA section. We'll answer those at the end of the presentation today. And then you do also have the ability to raise your hand where I can unmute you and you can articulate your question that way. So looking forward to the time that we get to spend together here today, and I will hand it over.
Awesome, thank you. So hi everyone, my name is Drea. I am an interior designer at Story Kenworthy, which is an all-steel dealership in Des Moines, Iowa. I've been using CET for just under 2 years now, and last year I was the third place winner for Best Success Story, where I talked about my use of the reconfiguration tool. So that is what I'm here to talk to you guys about. So what is the reconfiguration tool? It's a free extension that you can download from the marketplace, and it helps manage inventory and reconfigures by using a flowchart to populate product list for reusable parts, new parts, and your leftover parts. So I'm going to walk through 3 different examples with you guys today. The first is a basic reconfigure. So this might be where you have a pod of workstations and the end user just wants to reconfigure those stations and make them bigger or add storage or something like that. So that's going to be your basic reconfigure. For example 2, we're going to take that basic reconfigure and take it to the next level. So this might be where you have multiple phases or you're pulling from multiple inventories. Our third example is using an existing SIF. So just out of curiosity, if you guys could type into the chat, who all used to use CapCAD before switching over to CET? Awesome. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people. So you're not alone. I also used to use CapCAD, so we have a lot of our existing drawings done in CAD, but luckily they have SIF files along with them. So we are actually able to use those SIF files and put them into the reconfiguration tool. So I'll show you how to do that as well. Okay, so before jumping into these examples, I just wanted to show you guys my success story from last year to show you kind of what the reconfiguration tool can do. So here's our existing layout. So a little background about this project. They were an existing client of ours. And you can see here, each department is color-coded on this floor plan. And this kind of dark red color over here, these guys were moving into a different building. So the people who remained in this building wanted to reconfigure the space so that it worked a little better for the departments that remained. So this is the new layout here. Again, it is color-coded by department. And one of the biggest challenges that we faced with this project was these top 2 departments up here. They were not able to work remotely. They needed to be in a workstation in the office at all times. So we had to figure out a way how to accommodate that while reconfiguring. So using the reconfiguration tool to determine phasing for least disruption for that team, and then also the most cost effective as well, because I didn't want to buy a bunch of product that they didn't need. So to start off the project, once we had both the new and existing layout done, I tagged each pod in both the new and the existing layout. So the existing layout was tagged by letter, so ABC, and the new layout was tagged by number, 1, 2, 3, just to keep them separate. And then once we had everything tagged, I went into the reconfiguration tool and created this mile-long flowchart. So this helped me in getting this nice little bill of material for each pod. And it told me what product would be new and then what product would be coming from which existing pods. So pod A, pod B, pod C, and so on. And I actually included this bill of materials in my install drawings as well for our install crew. So they knew exactly where product was coming from, and they actually were able to finish the install early and with no punch. So it really helped our team really become successful. Without this reconfiguration tool, it probably would have taken me days to come up with all this information. So it really speeded up the process as well. All right, so with that, we're gonna jump into CET and go over our first example here. So I'm gonna give you just a little backstory behind this example. So end user has an existing 4-pod. They have determined that they need more room to spread out papers and they also want more storage. So starting off, I created 2 different alternatives, one for my existing layout and one for my new layout. So by doing that, that just helps keep the 2 bill of materials completely separate, which you're gonna want when you jump into that reconfiguration tool. So once I have both my existing layout and my new layout complete, you're going to want to save your drawing. And the reason for doing this is because the reconfiguration tool is completely separate from your CET drawing, so it's not going to update simultaneously like calculations would. It's actually pulling from the saved drawing file. So always save your drawing before hopping into that reconfiguration tool. And then there's a couple different ways that you can get to the reconfiguration tool once you've saved. So you can go to Tools, and then all the way towards the bottom here, you'll see Reconfiguration Tool. So you can either do that way, or if you have Show All Tabs selected here, you can scroll all the way down and it's this little circular symbol, Reconfiguration Tool, and just hit Start Reconfiguration Tool. And then this little flowchart will pop up. And this is very similar to your drawing space where you can zoom in, zoom out, and move it around. So it acts very similarly there. And you're gonna have a box for your existing, proposed, compare, and then new, reuse, and excess. So for this basic reconfigure, we're gonna just start by adding our existing bill of materials. So you'll double click and find your CET drawing, hit open. And then you're gonna get this little pop-up box. It's gonna ask you which alternative you want. So since we're putting in our existing bill of materials, we want to keep that on existing layout. And then we're gonna keep our article view as main because we want to pull all of that product that's shown in that drawing. So hit OK. And then you'll see here, we've got 52 items added into our existing bill of materials. And then down here at the bottom is an article view showing all of those parts and pieces. If you want to, you can go and change your view settings by clicking this little folder. And under columns, you can select which columns you'd like to see. You can also change by how they're grouped or sorted, and you can filter as well. So now that we have our existing bill of materials in there, we're going to go ahead and add our new layout to our proposed box. So again, you'll just double click, find your drawing, And now instead of our existing layout, we want to pull from our new layout alternative. So we'll select that, keep this as main, and then hit OK. And then again, you can see 89 items were added, and all of our parts and pieces are down here at the bottom. Okay, so now that we have both our existing and our new layouts added in there, we'll go to the compare box here. And we'll start with this group by pull down here. You can group this list by whatever you want. So you can see here I have company and category selected. If I just wanted to sort by category, I can do that. If you want to sort by catalog, you can also do that. The thing that you are definitely want to make sure you have set is this compare by. So this is telling the reconfiguration tool what criteria you want it to compare by. So you can see I have part number and options. That's what I would recommend you do most of the time. So obviously part number is the actual part number of the piece of furniture, and then options is like what finishes you have selected for that part. So those are the criteria that it's pulling from. If you want, you can also change that compare by going to that view settings and selecting grouping and compare, and then this right column here, you can change that to any of these columns. You will notice too that this article view looks a little bit differently than the existing and proposed. So this actually is a breakdown of each of those boxes. So for example, if we were to go to this storage piece here, you'll see that under proposed, we have 3 of these storage pieces. Under existing, we have 3 as well. So we'll reuse 3 and we won't need any new and we won't have any left over. So this is a great tool to use as a spec check. And you can actually print this off as well. So if you go up top here to this little printer, print reports, and then you'll click this reconfig, have that checked. And then you can either print the chart if you want to, that's that flow chart. I don't usually print it, but for sure you'll want to have that article views checked. And then if you select it and scroll all the way to the bottom, you can select which article views you want to have printed. So I'm going to print compare, and then we will create PDF. And this is what that is going to look like. So you can see I have each of my parts here listed, and then each column here, whether it's proposed, existing, excess, reuse, and new. So like I said, great tool for using as a spec check. Okay, so now that we have our compare by selected, we can go in and that will generate your new, your reuse, and your excess. And you can click on each of those boxes and it will pull up the article view for each of those. If you go to new, you can actually, if you have any calculation templates, you can actually add those into this article view here as well. So if you go back into that view settings, and then down here, click on load, find your template, and then that will load. So then from here, you can go ahead and add in all your discounting, add in your margin, and then you can export this to a CIF as well. So there's this little button up here. It looks kind of like a graph. So just click on that select your export format and where you want to save that to, and then just hit export. So that is your basic reconfigure. Once you have that all the way complete, make sure that you save it because it won't save with your drawing. Like I said earlier, it is completely separate. So if you ever want to come back to it later, make sure you save it to your file. In addition to that, if you make any changes to your drawing, you will need to update your reconfiguration tool. And to do that, you can use this reload all button over here. And there's a couple different ways you can do it. So underneath that reload all button, there's this load from open drawing. If you have that selected, it's going to pull from the drawing that you have open any changes that you've made. If you have it unchecked, it's going to pull from the last saved file. Personally, I like pulling from the saved file because I always save after I make changes, so I know that it's pulling from the most updated drawing that I have. But it's completely your preference there with whatever you want to do. Okay, so that's our first example. We will go ahead and jump into example 2, which is our next level reconfigure. Okay, so little backstory behind this example. Our end user has 4 existing departments. Their business is growing and they would like to increase the number of stations they can fit in the space, as well as add touchdown stations and collaboration areas. They require this to be done in phases to limit disruption to their team. So I started this very similarly to how you did the basic reconfigure with creating 2 alternatives, one for existing layout and one for new layout. So you can see the difference there. Once I had those 2 drawings done and complete, I then tagged them accordingly. So in this example, I tagged them by department. You can also tag them by room or however you plan on phasing the project. So if I zoom in here, you can see this area is tag sales department new. We've got touchdown new, customer service. And then also, if we flip back over to our existing layout, those are also tagged. One thing I would recommend is creating, if you have, for example, a sales department in both your existing and your new layouts, I would recommend tagging them differently. So you can see here I have a sales department and then a sales department new. That just kind of helps you keep track of what's what. Okay, so now that we have everything tagged, we're actually going to go up into our calculation view so we can create different article views for each department. So when we're in our calculations view, this is what you're going to see. You'll see that main tab here, which is going to have everything that is in your drawing. Before you separate those out into different article views, I recommend double checking that everything has a tag associated with it. An easy way to do that is to sort by your part tagging, and anything that's not tagged will typically show up top here. So you can see like this tariff here does not have a tag associated with it, which isn't a huge deal with it being a tariff, but if there's any product up here, you'll want to make sure you go back into your drawing and make sure that that gets tagged. So once everything is tagged, we can go ahead and create different article views. And to do that, right next to this main, there's this little, what looks like a piece of paper. It says create a new view. So you'll hit that. And now we have a new article view created. And we want to filter out so it's just one department. So we'll click on the View Settings and go to the Filter tab, and then filter by your part tagging category. So for this example, we did tag 1. And we're just going to do accounting department first. And then up at the top here, you can rename it, which I would strongly recommend so you know what your article view is. Accounting department. And then just hit close. And now that article view just shows the accounting department. So we're going to go ahead and create an article view for each of those tags. And then we'll rename this customer service. All right, so now you can see we have an article view for each one of those tags. And you'll want to do that for both of your alternatives, so for both the existing and the new layout. And I've actually gone ahead and created those in the new layout already, so you can see those. Okay, so now that you have your drawing complete and you've tagged your drawing and created those article views, save your drawing. And then you can open up that reconfiguration tool. Okay, so for this particular example, we are going to do the sales department as phase 1. So they're going to tear down their sales department and rebuild their sales department first in phase 1. So I'm going to start with my proposed bill of materials here first. We'll find our drawing. Okay, so for our alternative, we're going to pull from the new layout. And now when we get to this article view, we just want to pull the bill of materials for the sales department. So we'll click that one and hit OK. And you see those items were added. I'm also going to rename this so I remember what phase this is. So up here in this green properties box, you can just click here and rename. So sales department new. You can also change the background here if you want to. I don't usually, but completely up to you. So now that we have those items added and it renamed, I do just want to pause here, and I recommend that you double check that this list gets loaded correctly. I've had it before where I've gotten a couple layers in and realized that it didn't load correctly. It was kind of a pain to have to go back and reload it. So an easy way to double check that is if you scroll all the way down to the bottom here on the article view and look at that sales department subtotal. If you hop over to your calculations view and go to that sales department new article view and calculations, if that subtotal is the same, then you're most likely loaded correctly. If they're different, I would recommend refreshing your calculations view, saving your drawing, and then going back into your reconfiguration tool and reloading it into that box. I've found that usually fixes the problem, so highly recommend doing that. All right, so we have our proposed layout in there. So let's move over to our existing. So we'll double click, find our drawing. Give it a second here. Oops. Uh-oh. Here we go. Okay, so we want to pull from our existing layout, and our article view, I want to pull from the sales department. Hit OK. And then I am going to rename this existing sales department. All right, so we have, right now we are just pulling from one department, but let's say I want to pull from customer service as well. So we can actually pull in another one of these existing boxes by going over to the left-hand side here under Edit. You'll see all these boxes here, existing, proposed, compare, and arrow. So just click on that existing, and then you can bring it in and place it wherever you'd like. And then you'll also need to bring in an arrow. So click on that, and it kind of just snaps into place once you hover over that. So we'll click there and then bring it down to the compare box. And again, it kind of just snaps into place. And you'll see once you add that arrow, it adds these extra boxes as well. So now in addition to the reuse from the sales department, we have a reuse from existing 2, and then we also have the excess from existing 2. So now that I've got that box added, I'm going to go ahead and add in our customer service department. So again, we'll keep it at existing layout, and then we'll find our customer service, hit OK. So those items were added. I'm going to change the name here so I know what it is. And then you'll also see in these boxes that you'll have this priority number, so priority 1 and priority 2. So this is telling the reconfiguration tool which bill of materials you want to pull from first. So right now it's pulling from the sales department first, and then any other product that it still needs, it will then pull from the customer service department. So you can keep adding on however many existing bill of materials that you have for that phase, and then it will keep generating all these different lists. All right, so that is phase 1. And now we want to jump into phase 2, which is the new customer service. So we're going to add another layer, and you can either drag in all of your boxes here by hand, or you can go under this auto insert and click on this new level, and it will automatically put in all the boxes that you need. It will even put in arrows from your excess parts from phase 1 and put them into phase 2. If for whatever reason you don't want to pull from any of these excess, you can simply click on that arrow and just delete it. Okay, so let's go ahead and add in our customer service new. we go. So new layout. And then for our article view, we'll hit Customer Service Department New and hit OK. Let's rename it Customer Service New. And now you can see all of those boxes have populated different bill of materials. If you want to add in another existing bill of materials for phase 2, you can do that as well. We'll just click existing and pull that in. And we will, let's see, let's pull from the accounting department. So existing layout, accounting department, and hit OK. And I want to change this so that it's pulling from the accounting department third. So you can see that priority number changed. And then don't forget our arrow. So now we have over here, have generated a reuse from existing customer service, reuse from sales department, and reuse from accounting, as well as our excess from those 3 departments. So you can keep on adding different layers and different phases until you have all of your article views added here. The more you add, you can see that these might start to overlap. So you can easily move those by holding down your control key and just holding a box around those that you want to move. And then just click and drag. And you can see that arrow even follows along with it, which is nice. All right, so I'm going to add one more in there just so you guys can see what I did again. Okay, so new layout, and let's see, let's do marketing. And let's go ahead and add in our last existing bill of materials as well. And marketing. Okay, put our arrow in. And there you have it. We've got 2 new boxes, existing and excess from marketing department. So like I said, you can just keep going and create one of these green proposed boxes for each one of those new article views until you've got those all complete. And then if you wanted to, you could also add in a separate reconfigure within this reconfigure. So if you don't want to pull from any of these boxes, if you go over to auto insert and hit add reconfigure, it will create a new flowchart right next to it. So say you have both sales department and customer service that you want to do simultaneously, but you want to keep them separate, you can do that way. Okay, so once you have all of those layers complete, If you wanted to, you can merge some of these bill of materials. So let's say I just want one bill of material for all of my new product. I can do that by clicking and selecting each one of these new boxes. And then over on the left-hand side, there's this merge button. So if you just click that while you have those selected, it's now merged all of that new product. And you can actually, so I'm going to load in a template here quick. So you can see, so that merged box, it still kept all of your tags for that new product as well. So you know where the product is going. And then you can also rename this as well. So merged new product. You can also do this with your excess boxes too. If you just want one list of all your leftover products, just select all of those boxes, hit merge, and then we get this merged excess box. And that is it for example 2 for the next level. Once again, don't forget to save your reconfigure because it will not save with your drawing. Okay, hopping into example 3 with using an existing SIF. So I have my existing SIF saved, but I am still going to do my new drawing in CET. So the backstory behind this example is the end user would like to make some changes to their existing private office that was originally drawn up in CAD. So I have my SIF file. I now have my new layout drawn in CET. We want to save it. And then we will go into the reconfiguration tool. Okay, so same way that you would do any other reconfigure, you're going to double click on your existing box. Now, instead of finding a drawing, you're going to find that SIF file. So we'll select that and hit open. And you'll get this little pop-up that asks you what import type. I leave it at project matrix and then hit OK. Then you might get this pop-up box that asks you if you want to update it to current catalog prices. So typically I hit no because it's existing product and it doesn't need to have current pricing. So I hit no. And then you may get some pop-ups that say that there is no 2D or 3D symbol. Just hit OK through all of those because that's not a big deal. And then there you go. Our SIF has been added. You can see down here at the bottom all of those parts. And then we're going to go ahead and add in our new layout. Only this time, since it's in CET, we'll click that drawing, hit open. And since there is only one alternative, it's not going to ask me that question. And we're going to keep our article view as main and hit OK. Let's go to our compare. And our compare by is part number and options, which is perfect. And there you go. It is generating our new, our reuse, and our excess. So pretty simple. You can even, if you're doing, for example, that second example that we walked through, if you have a SIF file of some inventory that you may have stored in a warehouse somewhere, you have that in a SIF file, you can bring that over into that multi-layered reconfigure as well. So Yeah, that is what I have for you guys. I'm sure we have some questions.
We do. We have some questions that have already been entered. Make sure to get in any additional questions that you'd like Drea to address. We have a little bit of time here. So question number one, how has the accuracy been regarding items sold in packs, like electrical mounting brackets?
So I haven't had too many issues with that. I think it might depend on the manufacturer and how they have that set up, but I have not had any issues.
Awesome. Thank you. Next question, are alternate views required to use the reconfiguration tool?
Um, Not necessarily. So if I hop back into CET here, so if you have both your new and your existing in one in the same like alternative, you can tag them separately and then do it that way. But you just need to make sure that there are two different bill of materials that you're pulling from. And I found that alternatives is the easiest way to do that.
Awesome. Next question, has anyone ever brought up wanting to see in air quotes, see what is existing and what is new instead of just seeing a list of parts? Wish CET could create a highlight plan to show that.
Yeah, I don't think there's a way that you can physically see which, like the actual part that is existing or new. You can maybe try doing a feature request, see if that's something that they can put together.
Yeah, great suggestion there.
Yeah.
Have you had anyone bring that up as a possible issue in using the tool previously?
No, I have not.
Okay, perfect. But yes, great suggestion on the feature request. Next question, after existing product was checked and new checked, is the reconfigure tool accurate, like really accurate when you go to make the order new furniture?
Um, I found it's been pretty accurate. You'll definitely want to check it over. I talked about in the last session, I actually like to print that compare. So if you go to compare, since it has listed out each proposed existing excess and reuse and new, I like to print that out and use that as a spec check. So I'll print off both my existing and my new drawing. And when I'm working through that, I'll double check that if it says it's existing, that it's in both my existing, and if it's for the new layout, that it's in there as well. But yes, it's been pretty accurate. There might be some things here and there, but
Yeah. There's an additional comment in chat. The tool is pretty accurate if your DWG is accurate or your SIFs are accurate. Obviously, that comes
right.
into play as well.
Yep. So it's only as accurate as the information that you put into it. So
Absolutely. Awesome, thank you. Next question, will it calculate an inventory that is broken down into parts? For example, connector only without cover or raceway covers, etc.
can you repeat that question?
Yeah, absolutely. Will it calculate an inventory that is broken down into parts? For example, connector only without cover or raceway covers, etc.
Okay. So if it has its own part number, then it's going to inventory that part number, if that makes sense. So what I think you're asking is if you have like a top cap that comes apart, but it's all one model number, then it's not going to inventory both of those pieces. It's going to count that as one complete part.
Awesome. Thank you. Next question, for smaller reconfigures, is there a way to import a parts list? For example, items that have been in storage with known part number.
Yep, so if you have a CIF file for that, that's how a great way to add in that parts list. If you don't, you can always maybe add that within CET. So if you go in here and either create an alternative that where you bring in those parts list, or you can do a pick list that has those parts, and then add it to your reconfigure that way.
Awesome, thank you. Next question, if you didn't have the part numbers for the existing furniture, would the tool still work if you simply inputted tags and individual tags on the existing furniture?
Yeah, so if you don't have the part number, or the part number isn't the same, you can choose a different category to compare by. So you can see here, these are going to be limited under this pull down, but if you go into that view settings under grouping and compare, you can select a lot of different options to compare by. So if you have it tagged under tag 1, you can compare it by that instead.
Awesome. A couple more questions. Does the system respect all specials?
I think so. I haven't used it a ton with specials, but as long as you have that special created in your CET file, then it should work in the reconfiguration tool as well, depending on, again, what you're comparing by. So if you're comparing by that part number, make sure that your special has a part number.
Awesome. Another question, my manufacturer is considering tagging the existing layout with a letter E, then anything new would be obvious. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, you can do that. Sometimes I do that with like really small basic reconfigures. I'll do my existing layout, I'll tag it all individually. So each individual piece is tagged as existing. And then I'll go and create a new layout and add to it and whatnot. And if it's pretty obvious, if it's a new or existing part, I will sometimes do that. The tricky part with that is if you have systems and you start to change sizes, I think it still keeps that tag. So that's kind of the tricky part with that. So be careful if you're doing that and changing sizes of work surfaces and panels and stuff.
Awesome. Any additional questions that anyone has at this point? One just popped up. Can you change color of symbols, existing versus new?
Yes. So if you can change like your finishes and everything there, just make sure that when you're in your reconfiguration tool that your compare by, you'll probably want to make sure that that options is checked.
Awesome. Oh, and a couple more popping up. How has this impacted the time you've spent historically on reconfigures versus your new way with CET?
This reconfiguration tool has saved me so much time of trying to figure out what's existing and what's new, especially when you start to add in more and more layers. All the information that this tool produces, it's just so time consuming.
Awesome. If the client is okay with cutting existing work surfaces to new size, how do you do it?
With that, I would probably, when you're in your new layout, I would maybe give it a new model number or like create it as a special or something like that, just so you know that it's the same product or something like that. And then once you have that list produced, if you find that special, make a note on it that says it is an existing work surface that's cut down, if that makes sense.
I really appreciate the reminder in chat that if drawing, the accuracy importance of SIPs and
Yes.
DWGs all along the way here. So I
Yeah.
appreciate the continuous reminder in chat about that, that component of what we're working through. So, all right. I'll give everyone maybe another minute or so to enter in any additional questions. Those are all the ones that have been submitted so far. Quick reminder that after this session, there'll be a shorter break than between the first couple sessions today. So the next session will kick off at 3:50 Eastern time. If you need to get your CEU credits for this session, make sure to grab my initials from I know there were some instructions in the briefcase on how to download the drawing and grab signatures needed. Make sure to grab my signature for this session. Once again, my name is Kevin Johnson. Looks like that's all the questions that we're going to have. So I'm going to thank everyone for their time. Drea, thank you so much. Fantastic presentation and great questions again this session. And I love to see all the positive feedback coming in the chat. Drea, obviously you did a fantastic job. So thank you so much. I hope everyone has a great afternoon and enjoys the rest of CET experience.
Yeah, thank you everyone for attending.